are enormous in Lebanon, in the Middle East and further afield. And from Washington to Tehran, to name just two cities in particular, people will be watching events here in The Hague very, very closely. But if you talk to court officials, both for the prosecution and the defence, and you ask them, how can you possibly remain immune to these pressures? You can't just sit here in an ivory tower. They say, look, we're professionals. We will look at matters in a strictly legal way. We are detached from the on-the-ground situation in Lebanon. We're sitting here a long way away, and we will look at issues in the strict judicial sense. They're quite adamant about that, but obviously the real tests are yet to come.
And just very quickly, finally, Barnaby, who's footing the bill for all this?
Well, the court is being staged by, or is being hosted by the United Nations, but it's an international effort, and the government of Lebanon itself is contributing an important part of the bill. And of course, that's been one of the contentious issues back in Lebanon, to what extent the government should contribute to this court and whether it should stay with the court, if you like. That is something that Hezbollah would like the Lebanese government to pull away from. It's something that the United Nations says it would take a very dim view of if Lebanese participation and support for this tribunal were to end.
Barnaby Phillips, thanks very much, Barnaby. Now, emergency warnings have been issued for areas of Western Australia as bushfires continue to spread. Dozens of homes have already been burned down, and more houses are under threat as the blaze engulfs the outskirts of Perth. Andrew Thomas reports now from Sydney.
After widespread floods and a tropical cyclone, the latest natural disaster to hit Australia, bushfires. Southeast of the West Australian capital Perth, a spark from industrial equipment lit bone-dry grass. A second fire developing to the north of the city.
And whilst Victoria battles floodwaters, over in the west, people are battling bushfires. And we've seen the loss of homes. People who have been through the devastation of knowing that all of their possessions are gone, many of them not able to take things with them that are precious to them and which are now lost.
Gusty winds fanned the flames, houses in their path destroyed, and residents urged to abandon property.
All of a sudden the police just came along and said, please move along now, like the fire has jumped with the wind, and everyone had to leave.
During daylight, the fire is being fought from the air, as well as from land. But it's been overnight, when helicopters can't fly, that the flames have been at their most destructive.
It's horrendous conditions. We knew it was going to be difficult to control these sort of fires overnight. We don't have the aerial support, but the ground crews get in there and do their best to protect properties and hold it.
While winds remain strong, the flames have the upper hand, homeowners doing what they can to stop their progress. These fires come 2 years to the day after Black Saturday, the worst bushfires in Australian history that killed over 150 people. So far, property the main victim this time around. Andrew Thomas, Al Jazeera, Sydney.
Online company AOL is reportedly buying news website The Huffington Post for $315 million. It will be the company's largest acquisition since it separated from Time Warner in 2009. Huffington Post co-founder Arianna Huffington will take control of all of AOL's editorial content. She will become president and editor-in-chief of the newly created Huffington Post Media Group. The news website began as a liberal blog in 2005 and now draws some 25 million visitors every month. John Terrett is live in Washington. John, what was the main selling point for AOL?
Well, you know, Gita, the Huffington Post has become simply the most powerful website of its kind in the United States. You know, it's already among the top 10 most viewed global news websites. And that's not bad for a startup that is just 6 years old. And Arianna Huffington has gone from being the Greek shipping heiress to one of the most astute businesswomen and politicians in the United States. And she will join the board of AOL. Now, what it does is to break its own news stories with its smallish staff of about 70. But what it's famous for is constantly trawling the websites of companies like Al Jazeera English and other major international news broadcasters and major newspapers. And every time one of those companies puts up an exclusive or a breaking news story that is new, they combine this on the front pages of the Huffington Post. So it makes it absolutely appointment viewing for any news junkie or journalist. And of course, what AOL is hoping by paying its $315 million, which is chicken feed, by the way. I mean, they're basically buying Arianna Huffington for that money. Everything else comes with it for free. What they're hoping is that by having the Huffington Post on board, they will attract more eyeballs to their own struggling website. Ida.
Does this acquisition then undermine the argument made by some that AOL isn't quite what it used to be?
AOL is not quite what it used to be. I'm afraid AOL has had a very, very tough time. Do you remember back in year 2000, it was January of that year, there was that much trumpeted merger between AOL and Time Warner, where the young internet upstart AOL was taking over the American publishing behemoth Time Warner, and people were amazed by this. And Ted Turner, one of the founding broadcasters and entrepreneurs in America, was saying at the time, so hang on, let me get this right. You're going to put all the publishing that Time Warner does on AOL for free? And they were going, yeah, we are. And of course, it didn't work out. The whole idea was ahead of its time. And I'm afraid that since then, they've divorced. AOL's now pretty much on its own, and it's been struggling. Last year, its advertising revenue was down, its revenue from dial-up connections was down, and the idea is that by adding the Huffington Post alongside other websites that they own, like the ultra-local news website Patch.com, and also MapQuest, which a lot of people know and use, certainly here in the US, that they are going to attract more people to their site. And the key to this is bringing in more advertising dollars. That's what they hope they will be able to achieve.
John Terrett in Washington. Thanks very much, John. And some news to bring you right now from South Sudan. We're getting reports that the people of South Sudan have voted with 98.83% to secede from North Sudan. This is according to video results shown by Reuters. We will, of course, bring you more on this news as soon as we get it. We will continue to update you. But for now, it appears like the people of South Sudan have said yes, with a resounding figure of 98.83% to secede from the North. Well, let's get now some sports. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Rita. Well, the Green Bay Packers have their hands on the biggest prize in North American sport. The Packers won their 4th Super Bowl title after a thrilling win over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Andy Richardson reports.
There's number 7, their quarterback.
Two of the sport's most storied franchises and two of the NFL's finest quarterbacks head-to-head for Super Bowl 45. It was Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers who started quickest. The Pittsburgh Steelers trailing by 21 points to 3 after this Greg Jennings touchdown. Rodgers would go on to throw for more than 300 yards. The Steelers stayed in touching distance, but in the 4th quarter, a 3rd touchdown pass from Rodgers, again to Jennings, looked to have made the game safe for the Packers. The Steelers responded though, Ben Roethlisberger throwing a 25-yard touchdown pass for Mike Wallace, and the Steelers were within 3 points. But a Packers field goal and a final incomplete pass from Roethlisberger
Ben, a lot of contact.
Meant the title was Green Bay's. 31-25, the final score.
Green Bay will take over.
It's just a feeling of accomplishment right now, that we've accomplished our goals. We talked about it March 16th when we met for the first time, and here we are, the world champions.
It's a tough game, and there's probably a lot of what-ifs. There's a lot of throws I'd like to have back. Like I said, I don't put a blame on anybody except myself.
The Vince Lombardi Trophy, named of course after the legendary Packers coach, on its way home for the first time since 1997. Andy Richardson, Al Jazeera.
Formula One driver Robert Kubica has regained consciousness. The Pole was in induced coma after a 7-hour operation to try and save his hand. He also suffered multiple fractures to his right arm and leg following a high-speed crash in a rally in Italy on Sunday. Andrew Potter reports.
Far away from the glamour of the Formula One circus, Robert Kubica was driving this rally car in a relatively minor event in Italy when he crashed. Reports suggest he lost control and hit a metal barrier, which was able to puncture the front of the car, leaving him with multiple fractures to his right arm, leg and hand. The 26-year-old was helicoptered to hospital, undergoing lengthy surgery.
I think it's quite difficult now, but who never knows. Drivers are always a very special patients. I had a lot of motorbiker patients. They heal in the fastest way possible, much faster than the normal people.
Kubica is Poland's first Formula One driver. In 2007, he was fortunate to escape this massive crash in Canada with minor injuries. He took his first win at the very same track a year later.